now what we were originally shooting to do here, now I've officially gone over my 5-minute fix-up, but I appreciate your patience if you're still with me here. We are now going to set up the login so that when you log in for the first time, not sign up, but only when you choose to log back in, right here, when you successfully log in, not only do I want to set the app variable, but I want to set the local storage. So I need to install that. Let's see if we can find it with search on storage. There it is. So I want to set item to storage. While we're there, let's look at the other storage things we need, because I also want to get item from storage. And we may or may not get to the logout capability, but I'm going to take care of the retrieval of that one too. Because if somebody were to explicitly log out of their application, we also want to delete item from storage, because a logout from a user's perspective means that next time I come to the app, I want to have to log back in. I don't want it to automatically log in for me. So we're going to need the set, the retrieve, and the delete to finish up the whole process around sign up, log in, log out, log back in. Okay, but where we want to start is the set item to storage. So I'm going to go ahead and just add that into the mix before we go to the screen. And we are going to give it a key. So we'll call it auth token. And then we're going to pick the data to store, which will be, why am I going there? We want to pick the data to store, which is going to be a data variable and an app variable, and it's going to be the auth token. And we're safe doing that because we set the app variable with the bearer token in front of it. And now we're going to use that same value, and we're going to set local storage to a key called auth token. And the key is what we're going to use to look it up later. And I should probably not hard code that, but let's just kind of keep moving, and maybe that'll be a cleanup because I always end up with that. That item to storage. So we're done there. Now what we need to do is not on login, but at the page level, when the page is loaded or mounted, we want to get item from storage. So I need to retrieve that. So now we're in a different flow, right? We've done a login initially, and that stored off the auth token into local storage. Now if we close the app and come back in, the very first thing that happens when this login screen opens, which is the first screen that will open because it's set that way, we want to get the item key, which is auth token. And then the outputs for that are any value, right? The item value. And so in good fashion, so that we can see what's happening, because what are the chances I get it right the first time? We're going to put that dialog here, switch back to properties. We'll put a title, and then for the dialog message, output from another node, get the item. So I'm thinking all I'm going to see at this point is the no auth token. It's already checking because the app relaunched because I saved it. So I'm going to do a login. That's right. I ended up doing TA9, test account 9 at email.com. We'll do that. Guess I can just paste the password and do a login. And then if I get out of the app and come back in, there it is. Yay. So now what we want to do, since we know that we're getting the auth token set and then able to retrieve it, I'm going to delete my alert for debugging. We now want to set an app variable. There we go. And the app variable we want to set is going to be auth token. And we're going to want to get that from output value from another node, and it's any value. So we have an incompatibility issue here again. And the way I'm going to fix that is what I've mentioned before. We are just going to solve it through a formula. Click on that. And we're going to say output of another node, and we're going to pick item. And it will just let me get away with it because it doesn't have the same level of checking. We've already checked with the alert and we know what we're getting back. So now we're going to set that variable. And there's one more thing I need to do here. I almost forgot the most important part. I was getting all caught up in setting local storage. But the key thing I need to do now is to, and maybe even before I set this logically, I need to confirm that that token is still valid, because they only last for a day or whatever amount of time you set them for. And so if I just assume that because I find a token that they should be let in, I could have an invalid canceled token and I'd be letting somebody into the app and seeing data they shouldn't see. So what that means is we're coming back over to Xano. Another great feature they give us is the me piece. And this is simply to tell us, if you notice it's secure by default. And what it's doing is if you don't have your auth token passed as a header, then you can't get back the user record because it'll fail because you don't have access. So this checks to make sure that your auth token is valid. And if it is, it will give you back the user record based on ID. And so what I am going to do, let's take a look here. So we've got inputs. The field name we're going to look at is ID, and the field value is authorization. You know what? Give me one sec here. I'm going to check something out and just make sure that I do or do not need to make changes there. Okay, so this took me a second to think through, and what I missed was the detail here where it says the field value is from auth. So it's not just an ID, it's very specifically the ID that's associated with auth. And since the auth token is passed in through an HTTP header, that is a part of every API call that Xano can inherently get access to and do comparisons on. So if that ID works, then we should get a user back in the API call. Okay, so that's how this works. It's really just validating the token and then returning to you the user that's associated with that token. And it's a good way to get a refreshed set of user data. Every time they open the app, you'll be retrieving back the user information, which is good later when we have profile pictures and name changes and all that stuff. You'll make sure to get a refreshed version every time they open the app, and they have a valid auth token. So this is all set up for us. And what we are going to do is string all this together and see if it works. So in the login, we're doing the login, we're setting the app variable and the item to storage, local storage, and then dismissing the login and showing the initial screen. And then additionally, if we just go to the page, when the page opens, so when page is mounted, before anything else can happen and before we can click on login or enter data values, it is going to get the item, the auth token, from storage. And now we need to go back to our data resources, and we need to add in a new data resource for me. Let me just look at something here. So I got naming standards. Okay, all capitalized. I just wanted to keep it the same. Me, look at that. Me, confirm token and get user. And so now I want to go back over to Xano, and I want to get the endpoint. Copied to clipboard. So there is the me, and it is a get, not a post. So we're going to be working with the get record, not get collection. And to test this and to get a schema back, I'm going to need to be able to grab a token. So let's see here. I probably need to save this, and if I do a login, this might be the easiest way. I was just trying to find my easiest path to a valid token. So I'm going to do a run and debug from the API. And I think TA9 has been my favorite today. So we're going to go back to that. We'll do a run, and I am going to grab the token. So this is a valid token for test account 9. We will come back into the get record. And for the test, I don't think I want that ID on the end. Let's take a look at some of our documentation here. Okay, I'm going to copy over what I just did. Let's go back to our me. And I'm going to get the endpoint because I just want to look. And so sometimes what I'll do is just copy it and separate it out here. So yeah, it doesn't want any index at the end. The reason that was there, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here shortly. Regrettably, I made the mistake of getting out of my login and getting rid of what was in my clipboard. So you get to watch me do this again. So that I can get the token again, copy that. Okay, what I was doing there is because I saw this on the get record, which is the default for AppGyver, because they expect that when you're doing a get, that you're trying to get an individual item. But this one does not need that. And so what I'm doing is getting rid of the ID there. And I'm also coming down to the placeholder, and I'm going to remove that parameter from here. So now there's no expectation that that will exist. And let's see what we have. So in test, I don't have to enter anything. If I just run it now, it should fail. Access denied. So I'm going to go back to base, because if you remember, oh, not in base, because this is a new endpoint, I need to add my authorization token. So I'm in base of the me API data resource, and I am going to add in authorization. I believe that's capitalized. It's text. It's not static. We may have to make it static here just to be able to get done what I wanted to. But before I do that, let me come back and look at get and see if this test, yeah, so it'll let me add it in. Cool. So we are going to add in static text that is bearer, space, and the auth token. So I feel like I've been jumping around a bit, but I'm hopeful that, there we go. All we've done is added that authorization check me API from Xano. We did our standard base. We came in for a get record because I had showed it's not a post, it's a get. We removed the ID from the end of that URL in AppGyver because this API is structured differently than the default expectations of AppGyver. Doesn't make it wrong, just makes something that you have to understand and consider. We removed the query parameter as well, then got a valid bearer auth token, put the bearer space in front of it. We had to add our authorization key to the base. And then when we ran the test, we see that we get back the valid information, the TA9 email info. So before I forget, I'm going to set that schema. We now have the ability to test whether or not a token is valid. And so we're going to get off of this data resource page because it feels like I've been here longer than I need to. And still on the page mounted, this is not based on login. This is when the page starts. I'm going to get an item from storage. And I'm setting, okay, I get the item. And what I am going to do is get a record. So this is back to the me API we just created. Let's go into the resource name, get the drop down and pick me. And now we want to pass in the authorization. And to do that, you know, this is interesting because I was trying to keep everything centralized, but I'm getting it from storage. Yeah, it's all in storage the way I want it. So I'm able to just pick output from another node, page mounted. Interesting. Get item from storage. Let's take a look at the outputs. As you can tell, I haven't used this one in a while. We know that we want to get item from storage, and then the item comes back on port 1. So let me go into get record. And for the get record, I want the authorization to come from what I got out of the item from prior node. Let's see if I went. There it is. It's incompatible because of the any value. So we're going to come back to authorization and we're going to pick formula. We will create a new formula based on output from another node, the item. Okay, so there it doesn't know any better. It thinks it's happy, and I think it is too. And then if I get back a valid return from here, I want to, oh, I'm going too far. Sometimes I just get lost. I want to set the app variable. Let's give ourselves a little more space here to look at. I want to set the auth token app variable from the output from another node, get record. And that's not the node I want though, so let's back up one. Get item from storage is what I want. So I'm too used to picking the prior item and I want to go one back. So we're doing the formula again because I think I'd learn it's incompatible. It always has been. So what I'm doing here is setting the output from another node, and it's from the page mounted, or sorry, get item from storage item. So what I'm setting here is the auth token, very simply. So what I did was when the page loaded, I got the auth token, should have bearer space in front of it. I got the auth token from local storage. I called back into Xano to confirm that that is a valid auth token. When it is a valid auth token, I get user information, but I'm not using that yet. But what I am doing is picking and setting the auth token variable, app variable that's used to load the to-do list and the to-do details that we looked at earlier. I'm loading that back into the app variable so that it can be used throughout the app. And that directly is the item that was from storage that we put there when we logged in the time before. So at this point, I have an app variable set. Let me get rid of that. Forgot I already had it there. Now, the next thing I want to do is dismiss the initial view, because I've come through a flow here where I've confirmed that this person is authenticated. And so I want the login screen to disappear, which is the initial view. And that will take us directly, as we've seen in the past, to the to-do list page. If the get record fails, I do nothing. I don't set the app variable and I don't dismiss the initial view. But where I end up landing, finish my sentence there, is on the login page. So when you open the app, if you don't have a valid auth token, you will just come right to the login page, no messages, no nothing. The expectation is that you need to log in. So let's see how much of that is actually going to work. Okay, exit app means I've already saved it. We've done a whole lot of changes on this, so keep your fingers crossed. Oh, that's right. I have an auth token from the time prior, so it works. Regrettably, it doesn't let me show you any different. But what I am going to do, I'm going to see if moving this hide spinner can help me prevent people from seeing the login page while we wait. Because if you noticed when I came in, it showed the login page for a second as it went through all of these flow functions. And I think, let's see, dismiss initial view. Let's see what happens if we put the hide spinner right here. See if we can reduce or eliminate seeing that login happen. Okay, so we're going to back out and hit to-do list. It spins there. That looks much better. So it doesn't flash as much and it doesn't show the login. I'm going to keep going on this one. So if you guys want to pause and come back and look later because I'm running long, feel free. But I think it would be best to do a log out because just getting into that screen, I want to show you that everything works. And honestly, I want to show myself that. So to do the log out, it's actually a pretty straightforward effort, but we're going to want to create a new screen. This screen will be the profile screen. So what we're saying is that the user will come into their profile screen and be able to do a log out from there. Later, we'll make the profile screen actually interesting and put a profile picture and a name and an email address and all that kind of good stuff on it. But for now, it will be a button and it will be a sign out button or a sing out button. Okay, so this screen is not pretty, but what we're going to do is when you tap sign out on your profile screen, we want to delete an item from storage. And I kind of mentioned that before. This will mean that you're not logged in anymore because the key, and it will probably be a cleanup that I make that a variable. But at this point, I want to do that. And then, you know, there is another function. I'm hoping to remember the name of it here shortly. Maybe we have to do a search for it. That will take me back to the main screen or the initial screen. Let's see if, there it is. So I typed in initial and the marketplace return to initial view without reading all the details. I'm assuming that's what I want. And it is return to initial view, which means when I delete item from storage, I should go back to the login screen. And I should stay there because I no longer have an auth token. Now to be able to get to this profile screen, I guess everything has its purpose, right? To get to the profile screen, we are going to add in a new navigation item. So I'm on the navigation menu, I'm going to add item. It picks profile screen because once again, it's already got the other one. We want a better icon, don't we? Because how about we pick this one? That one's pretty good because it's a person. So now I should end up with an additional, there we go. Down at the bottom, you can see that I have a profile. And if I leave the app and come back in, you'll see it waits and then it brings me in. I'm living on the edge here because I haven't practiced this one in a while. But if I go to profile and sign out, I come to login And now I need to log in, but let's just say I close the app and I come back in. It's thinking and checking. Oh, I broke it. I know what I did wrong. And that's why we always test what we know code. Okay, what I did wrong was in the login page, there we go, login. When page mount happens, we're there. I only hide the spinner if everything works. If it fails, I need to hide the spinner as well. And I'll kind of walk through that as I, oh here, let's just do controls there. We'll copy and paste. So if the get record fails, that means you're not authorized. But it also means that I need to be able to see the login page, which means I have to hide that spinner. So I either hide the spinner after I've authenticated and I go to the list, or I hide the screen because I failed and I want to stay on login. See, that saves us one cleanup on the next video. That's a good thing. Okay, so I'm going to log in. We'll use our friend TA9 at email.com. And we have our trustworthy password. We'll log in. Everything comes up. So now it has set the auth token to local storage. When I leave the app, and then I come back into the app, I should get in successfully, and I do. I'm authenticated, I see my stuff. And then if I go to profile and sign out, I've deleted from local storage, so that auth token is gone. I'm going to leave the app, and this time when I come into the to-do list, I should drop right into the login. So there we have it. We are now, we have a semi-pretty app. At least we have some color schemes that match. We have a logo. We have the ability to sign up. We've removed the ability to sign up a blank user, yay. We can now log in, and upon logging in, we can set it so that you come in the next time and it'll automatically log you in. And we've also, bonus feature, added the beginnings of the profile screen so that we have the logout, and that person is now able to log out. And as we have proven, after they've logged out and come back in, they're not automatically brought in, they have to log back in. And I guess the last little thing we can do here is sign out for color. Maybe instead of making that color informative, we make that, let's see, color negative. There we go. Let's just make that look like something that isn't a default action. So now it's red, and it'll get pushed down the screen when we get data and profile image and all that done. But for now, we made it so that it looks like something you should think about before you do. Okay, thanks for hanging in with me. See you on the next video.